Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I'm your host, the One Take Man. Today's video, as I've already specified last week, will be, let's hope I get the scene right, yep, a Pirates of Darkwater reboot plot slash cast. Now, as I've said before, as I said last week, I have some ideas on how this animated series that had a lot of potential when it started out could be rebooted. And it is that idea for a reboot that I want to explore within this current video. And that presentation will also feature some of my potential casting ideas for who should play the characters I think would be the most important within my within my new take on this franchise. I'll go very briefly over the plot, and then I'll go through each individual character and also explore who the best casting choices would be. I have to specify that even though the original Pirates of Darkwater was animated, I am still somewhat open-minded when it comes to whether or not the reboot should also be animated or whether or not it should be live action. I think it's complex enough to where you could justify it being animated because it would take a little bit too much for it to make it actually live action. But regardless, I've made my casting by the Andrea Romano School of Casting, meaning that I sought people who could both voice these characters as well as provide a physical performance for them, should it be necessary. Anyway, with that excessively long intro out of the way, let's get into the actual meat of this video by talking a bit about the plot, or the very bare bones of it. Namely, I want this show to have 3 seasons, each of which would be 8 episodes long, no more, no less. Why 8 episodes? Well, because I think that is the sweet spot that would ensure that the plot moves, that the plot moves forward at the exact pace it needs, and neither too fast nor too slow. Every episode needs to develop the main story somewhat, and I think with 8 episodes, you can still keep a high pace, but still leave some breathing room. I'm trying to avoid that with the mistake that uh, the animated series did, particularly in its second season, when it tried to space out just when they would the interval it would take them to it would take the characters to find the treasures. Instead, I want to give them 24 episodes to find the 13 treasures. Ideally, that they should find all 13 by the 20th episode, and then have the final 4 be the final showdown, where everything where everything happens. Anyway, before I get any further into into my presentation, I think I should explain what I've presented here. As I said, 3 seasons, 8 episodes each. In season 1, we'll have introductions, backstories, as well as setting the stage, as well as the stakes. I should perhaps say now that this video will go full spoilers. So, if you haven't seen Pirates of Darkwater and would want to, I suggest you close the video, watch it, all of it. It'll take a little over 7, a little less than 8 hours. So to watch everything. So once you've done that, you can you can come back and watch the rest of this video. I'll assume you have by now seen everything. So let me just go through my explanation for why I divided the seasons in the way that I did. In season 1, we'll have the introductions. So we'll get to know each of the principal characters and what it is that makes them what it is that makes them distinctive, what their motivations are going in, and then also we're setting the stage or the stakes, i.e., the point of this first season is to explain why it is that the story we're following is as important as it is to the world. It should showcase why why the audience is watching this. In season 2, expanding the setting and establishing major villains. That means that is the season that is devoted more purely to the exploration and to actually building up the conflict, showcasing what it is that makes what it is that makes the villains dangerous for various people within the world, not just the heroes, but maybe also other factions, and we can explore how it is that they interact, not just the various factions that they explore, but also the various civilizations or the various societies, various countries, cities, nations, etc. that get introduced. That is something that could also be done. And then in season 3, wrapping up the quest, I said gathering all the 13 treasures of rule as per the point of the plot, and then overcoming the villains, having the climactic showdown, which sees all of the main baddies get defeated. That is my principal idea. Now it's time to look at how each of the most important characters play a role in that. I've selected 10 of those. And if you'll remember my Witcher casting video, you'll know that how long that was when going through 12 characters. And I want to get this video done while I still have sunlight, so I'd better not dawdle too much. Starting with Morpho. This guy was initially an alchemist who wanted to study dark water, that mysterious substance that spreads throughout the world and kills everything it touches. When he, however, tried to get some dark water in order to study it, the dark water actually grabbed him, and on behalf of its master, the Dark Dweller, the dark water changed him into the shape he has now, where he is half man, half marine creature. He now does the bidding of the Dark Dweller, who is basically the larger scope or the arc villain of the entire story. So he is the one who is behind the spread of the dark water, and he is really the main threat that the heroes have to overcome. And this guy Morpho is his is supposed to be his main enforcer. In the show, he only is a major threat in one episode, where it is revealed that he also established a cult that is meant to worship the Dark Dweller and bring his plans to fruition. I think he could do something similar within the show itself and stay as a kind of secondary villain within the show for at least some time. But eventually he would have to join Bloth, who is the principal antagonist throughout most of this show's run, so that he can on behalf of his master also present a challenge to Ren. And to play him, I choose Doug Jones. Yeah. To those of you who are unfamiliar with him, Doug Jones is a mime and an actor. He is mostly well known for playing characters who require a lot of makeup and prosthetics. He has played Saru in Star Trek Discovery, maybe another Star Trek project since, and if I'm not mistaken, he was also the creature monster in The Shape of Water. And if you want to go a little bit further back, he was Abraham Sapien in the first two Hellboy movies. I'm not sure if he shows up in the third one that came out a few years ago, but that's beside the point. The point is, he can he can play he knows how to be expressive both with his natural face and under tons of makeup, and I think he can add quite a bit of dimension to to Morpho and make him just that a little bit more interesting. Next up, we've got King Primus. He is Ren's son, and in many ways, this show's most important legacy character. It's kind of he actually dies in the first episode, but throughout the course of the series, particularly within the first season, it becomes obvious how influential he actually is, and how much of a successful diplomat he actually was, and how he could tie the whole world into his efforts of fighting back the Dark Dweller and in trying to stop the spread of dark water. And as such, it could be a very interesting and as such, it could be very interesting to explore in stuff like flashbacks. So even though his actual role within the series, within the present of the series, would be minimal, his role within the past is substantial, and he does therefore embody a lot of gravitas, a lot of dignity, and a lot of quiet strength. And I had to think about a guy who could play that, and the more I thought of it, the more I realized that there was really only one obvious choice: Idris Elba. The man has been on a roll over this past decade, and really giving him a role that really emphasizes his more paternalistic side, and the parts of him that are stronger and that are strong but still somewhat quiet, will do a lot to really showcase what it is that I think makes him distinctive, what it is that makes him a noteworthy actor. So yeah, that's what I can say about King Primus. Next up, we've got Konk. Konk is is Bloth's main grunt slash punching bag slash gesture, as in he's pretty much constantly on the front lines doing the bidding of his master. He's only 4 foot tall, or about what's that in metric actually? Uh, 1 meter 20, 1 meter 21 ish. So, or actually 122, something like that. Anyway, the point is he is almost always in the front line. He is almost always interacting with the good guys, and not in a pleasant way. Even though he often finds himself in trouble, he always seems to have a knack for overcoming it. His survival instinct is unparalleled, and also there is a lot of there's actually a lot of this might not come through from this picture, but he does have his own distinctive attributes that make him more interesting to follow, that make him noteworthy enough to where where you want to follow him. And I think in order to embody that, the best choice would be Martin Kleba, or Kleby. I actually forgot his last name, because to be honest, Konk was among the most difficult casting choices I had to make. And trust me, because I wanted his main actor, even if it weren't, even if it was an anime, even if this reboot were to be animated, I still wanted his voice actor to be of a comparable size to him. And so I thought, I've looked at Warwick Davis, I looked at Danny Woodburn, I even looked at Jason Acuna, aka Wee Man. But when I thought about it, really this guy was the only one who's shown through. Partly because he already played this kind of character in Pirates of the Caribbean. Partly because he is, I think he is. I think he knows what it would take to make a character like this distinctive and memorable. He has that. He has that charisma where he is, where he is interesting enough to look at whether or not he'll play a hero or a villain. And I think that'll do a lot to add some dimension to Konk himself and make him stand out for the right reasons, as much as he did in the 90s series. Next up, we've got Niddler, the monkey bird, the unofficial mascot of the show. He was initially a slave under Bloth, and Bloth kept him in line by underfeeding him. The fact that the show then constantly made him having supposedly huge appetite as a running gag is not a good look. I have to say, it might still work as a way to sort of keep him in check, but if you are to give him a personality within this new adaptation, it has to be something more substantial. He can still be the comic relief, but he can't make jokes about that. I still think he could be a somewhat decent comic relief, presuming he is also capable of being a badass when the situation calls for it. I imagine him being kind of grizzled in a sense. He's seen so much that he's not fazed by anything, and he'll kind of crack jokes about it. Anyway, that's a potential idea. As for who to play him, well, he is one of the few characters who will be, who will have to be animated, whether or not he will be almost entirely animated, and will have exclusively a voice actor, whether or not it's animated or live action. And to voice him, I choose Frank Welker. Oh, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Frank Welker also voiced him in the original series, and as far as I've seen, he is still, he's still active, still doing his roles, and I think he can still, get right behind Niddler and also voice him when he is in a more, when he perhaps has more to work with than he did in the, 90s. Anyway, moving on, Mantus. Holy shit, these guys are ugly. Now, don't get me wrong; they are supposed to be ugly. I actually like that these characters are, have a distinctive look. But still, I have to note upon, just how distinctive it is. Mantus is the quartermaster, commander, main strategist of Bloth's ship. Think of it as Bloth having the physical might, and Mantus is the brains behind his operations. So he is the one who devises all the tortures that Bloth envisions. He is the one who plots out the training that Bloth's men receive, etc., etc. So when it comes, however, he is not all brain. He actually is a quite skilled fighter, primarily swordsman as well. And as such, I think whoever should play him needs to be able to project that level of menace, both in terms of his allure, in terms of his intellectual strength, or his quiet charisma, quiet menace, but also in terms of his being able to showcase his physical ability whenever necessary. Or he has to give the impression that he can switch to being physically menacing at a moment's notice. And I think the best choice for that is Danny Trejo. I think Danny has been has done a lot of uh, roles of badasses all throughout his life. And I think this one in particular will be one that that manages to merge his particular skills quite well. And it is one where and it is one that I think he can sell quite effectively, if I may say so myself. Moving on, we've got Ayaz. Ayaz is in many ways the most traditional-looking pirate of the entire series. He is industrious. He always wants to get stuff done. He always wants to he wants to keep himself busy and keep his pockets lined. However, he is not particularly greedy, nor is he particularly discouraged. He is very determined. He's very industrious, but still has a very happy-go-lucky streak. He knows that he has to take his days one at a time and go for and can still go for that which interests him. And that which interests him can take a lot of shapes, and he recognizes that, and he knows how to stay flexible enough. And I have to say, this one, he was another difficult one to cast because I went through a lot of potential people who could play him, but in my mind, the best casting choice for him is Michael B. Jordan. I also considered Jason Momoa and Pedro Pascal for a role, but in all honesty, they look more like grizzled veterans. And Ayaz, even though he looks a little bit more, he does look a little bit more grizzled than the rest of the main cast, but he is in many ways still in his physical prime and still very capable of carrying out whatever it is that he wants and never allow himself to be deterred. And I think Michael B. Jordan is a character who is the actor who would be most capable of really showcasing that both the happy-go-lucky nature and that and that quiet determination that allows Ayaz to move ahead regardless of almost any kind of obstacles you throw in his way. Next up, we've got Bloth, who for most of the show is actually the main villain, or is actually the main pursuer villain of the heroes. He is how do I describe him? How do I describe him succinctly? You know how in Peter Pan the pirates are embodiments of all the aspects of adults that the author J.M. Barrie finds particularly repulsive? Well, Bloth is just like that, but times 10. Like he is callous, sadistic, greedy, and ambitious, and has no qualms treating people like they are like they are beneath him, and feeling free to cast him away whenever he no longer finds any use for them. He is the kind of character who in bad shows would be introduced by, I don't know, raping a woman or threatening to rape a woman. My idea for Bloth would not do that, not because he respects women. He doesn't respect anyone. Not because he would be incapable of that. I don't really want to think about whether or not he is, though, but he does express some level of sexual or romantic interest throughout the show. Rather, my idea of Bloth would not do that because he finds it easier both to issue and carry out threats of physical violence, and also they put him in a less vulnerable position. So yeah, he is in many ways the quintessential pirate villain. He is the kind of monster that the thin blue line exists to contain. he is so yeah. Even though, but still in other ways, he is in many ways a more two-dimensional kind of character. Because even though he has some uh, more complex means through which to obtain his goals. His goals are still somewhat simplistic. With him, what you need to do is actually find a character who can inject some charisma into him, who can make sure that the role he plays, or that the can make sure that he comes across as interesting, maybe not necessarily likable, but charismatic enough to where you want to follow him, to where you look at him and you think, oh, okay, shit's about to go down. And my best choice for that is John Rhys-Davies. I have to add a disclaimer here, namely the fact that Bloth is something like 7'7" and over 500 pounds. In metric, that's about 232 centimeters tall, and his weight is about the same in kilograms. The only people on the planet who who are of that size and also have acting experience, I can only think of one guy who is Hafthor Julius Björnsson. And with all due respect to Julius, he does not really have the charisma necessary in order to really bring a character like Bloth to light. Not to light, to life. John Rhys-Davies, however, does. He is a veteran actor who knows how to take almost any kind of character and give them a level of dimension that no one else would consider. And I think he is the one who can bring that that charisma that has made Bloth a fan favorite among the audience of this show to life. That is something I look forward to. That is something I look forward to seeing. Moving up, we have Tula. Tula starts out her role within the show as a bar maiden who, surprise, surprise, is actually a capable fighter who then, surprise, surprise, is actually a traitor who then, surprise, surprise, betrays the people who she initially shown her loyalty to, because she was initially on a particular mission that she had to accomplish. So yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on with her, and that is before it is revealed that she is an ecomancer, i.e., she has vast magical powers with which she can do basically whatever the plot requires her. So within this retelling, that'll be one of the first things that has to occur. A magic system has to be established that really sets out what it is she can and can't do, and when exactly she'll find herself capable of doing that. Still, there is a lot to say about this character, because she is very capable on both on a physical level and on a more mental and emotional one. But she still has some vulnerabilities that she rarely reveals, and it is that game she does between revealing her strengths and revealing her vulnerabilities that makes her a compelling character to follow. And also, canonically, she's supposed to be 18, but I definitely don't buy that she's 18. Regardless, it could be quite a bit of a challenge to find a young actress who, first of all, fits her general look, her general lure, and is able to bring a role as complex as hers to the big screen. Luckily enough, I can name one very good candidate for the role: Zendaya. Yeah, I know. I can absolutely imagine that half of the people who are currently watching this video are absolutely applauding that one of their favorite actresses gets to be in this show, and the other half is absolutely going to curse this video because I'm mentioning Zendaya and she's overrated somehow. Well, I'll be completely honest and I'll say I haven't seen everything she's been in, but from but I've noticed that some of the things she's been in, she is have been quite well received, and given those have been quite well received, I'm gonna assume that I'm gonna assume that she has actually done quite well within those, and I know that the roles that she has had so far were varied enough to where she can bring a character as that is as complex as Tula to life on the small screen. So for that reason, she's my pick to play her. Next up, I think we've got the second to last character I want to talk about, the Dark Dweller, i.e., the main threat or force behind the behind this entire show. See this ship, this small ship right next to him? This is actually the Maelstrom, the ship that I described in the last video as a floating fortress. It is, no kidding, as big as a ship, big enough for there to be an entire village and monster dwelling, dwelling within itself. This small, this little peak that is going down, from the point from where it curves down to where it ends, that's about as tall as the average person. So you can imagine how big this ship is, and you can imagine how big this guy is, or rather, how big this guy can get, because his actual size is somewhat unclear. But given he is the originator of dark water, and to be more accurate, dark water kinda is more or less his essence, his entire body, he can spread throughout the entire planet. That is what makes him dangerous, and that is what makes and given the fact that he also kills pretty much anything anything you can try, he is basically a god of destruction that can only be kept at bay through the 13 treasures of rule. And the whole premise of this series is the fact that the 13 treasures of rule are scattered about and are no longer containing him. That is the whole point of the series. So that being said, he does have a minor role within the show, even though he has a huge influence. And I mean minor role as in he has very few actual appearances. Probably because there isn't really a lot you can do with a character who just looks like this all the time. I can, however, specify that he can shapeshift. So what I have in mind is that maybe when he shows up, he can have either a form similar to this one, which would be voiced by Frank Welker, but also maybe a human form, in which he can interact with humans when he wants them to do their bidding without actually indoctrinating them. And I think the guy who should play that human form is Tom Sturridge. I have to admit, I only know of Tom Sturridge from his role in the Sandman, but I've seen that he has a longer career and a quite proficient one at that. So he's played a lot of roles all throughout his time, and I think he can most effectively embody not necessarily bombast, because I think we can keep the bombast to his to his large shape, which would be voiced by Frank Welker. With Tom, I think he should embody something else, namely I've been trapped for a long time, and now I want to finally set my plan into motion. That requires a lot of poise and a lot of power. And all of that should be shown as in a relatively simple or subdued manner. And I think Tom Sturridge, based purely on his performance as a Dream in The Sandman, is quite adept at pulling that performance off. So for that reason, I want him to be to be the final boss and main villain of this show. I am currently planning a reboot of. I am presenting a reboot of, because I'm not actually planning it myself. I might plan it myself if someone in Hollywood calls up. Moving on, we got the main man himself, the main character of the show, Prince Ren. Ren actually discovers he is a prince in the first episode of the series, which is when he also sets out to accomplish the quest that his father started. He has a more subdued presence, despite his more heroic presentation. He actually has more of a subdued presence. He is very humble and quite willing to learn and to listen to others. He does have his moments where he is a hothead, but still, in general, he is an exemplarily well-behaved young man who has a lot of empathy towards other living beings, and always wants to make sure that always wants, and kind of has something of a chronic hero syndrome. He always wants to help other people. It is perhaps for that reason that he jumps into this quest. And I think the character, even though he has a well-developed personality, he is still somewhat of a blank slate. As in, there are still plenty of ways where this character could go. And I imagine he should be played by an actor who is maybe not starting out, but who already has a little bit of experience under his belt, and who is now going to actually looking to make something of himself. This is the kind of character who can allow a young actor to make a name for himself. And the young actor I've chosen to make a name for himself based on this role is Chosen Jacobs. Admittedly, I only know him from Part 1, that came out in, I think, 2017, so about 6 years ago. But I remember he was able to hold his own within that role. And I've seen that ever since then he has actually tried to expand his repertoire and get more roles and get more attention upon himself. And I think that is something that he can bring with this role. He is the one. I think he can embody an interesting presentation, interesting arc for Ren. He is someone who can take this character who is more of a blank slate and actually make something a little bit more interesting about him. Something that makes both the character and the performance memorable. And yeah, that was it. That was all I had. That was my suggestion for what a future Pirates of Darkwater adaptation should bring to the table, both in terms of narrative and in terms of performances. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like, maybe even share it wherever you think other people will like it as well. If you have anything you would like to add to the topic, that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. Maybe ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you informed. I also have a main channel where I talk about book-related and literature topics, a link to which you will find in the description down below, right past my social media links, which I also suggest you check out should you choose to. You will also find my Patreon listed down there, in case you want to support me more directly, as well as receive perks such as early access to videos as well as scripts. Not just for this channel, but also for my main one. Until next time, I have been the One Take Man.